Hello, this is your host, The Last Poet Left, and today we're unraveling a tangled web that's been centuries in the making. You might think the world is filled with limitless options, from the food we eat to the clothes we wear, to the media we consume. But what if I told you that no matter which path you take, the destination is always the same? It's not just food or clothes. It's the very money we spend, the products we buy, the entertainment we enjoy, and even the political choices we think we're making. The truth is, a few hidden hands control nearly every aspect of our lives. And it's been like this for centuries. When the gatekeepers own every path, do we really have choices at all? The grand illusion, corporate control masquerading as variety. Imagine you're standing in a grocery store, looking at shelves stacked with what seems like endless variety. Doritos, Cheetos, Quaker Oats, and Lay's. You're surrounded by hundreds of different snacks, each with a unique flavor, different labels, different packaging. It seems like freedom of choice, right? Wrong. Those are all owned by PepsiCo. Or take the cereal, Bell Cheerios, Lucky Charms, and Wheaties. You think you're choosing variety, but they're all General Mills. Even when you opt for something else, like Kashi or Special K, you're still feeding Kellogg's profit margin. Now look at beverages. Coca-Cola and PepsiCo dominate nearly every drink category, from soft drinks to bottled water to sports drinks. Two companies control hundreds of brands. If that's not a monopoly disguised as diversity, then what is? But it's not just food. What about fashion? You've got high-end brands like Louis Vuitton, Dior, and Givenchy on one side, and then everyday staples like Levi's, Vans, and North Face on the other. But who really owns these labels? It's the same corporation, Zem for luxury and VF Corporation for mainstream wear. Whether you're shopping at Walmart, Macy's, or Amazon, most of what you see is owned by a few conglomerates that control what you buy, how much you pay, and where your money ultimately goes. And think about Ticketpol, Google, Microsoft. They control your devices, your operating systems, your search engines. Even if you switch to alternative platforms, you're often just moving from one branch of the same tech tree to another. No matter where you go, you're still feeding into the same system. So when you think you're making a choice, are you really? If a few corporations own everything you see, hear, and consume, is it a choice or just a carefully crafted illusion of one? Media monopoly. Who controls what we think? We pride ourselves on living in a free society with a free press. But what happens when 90% of the information we consume is controlled by just 5 companies? Comcast, Disney, Warner Bros., Viacom Seas, and News Corp. Every movie, every TV show, every news article shaped by just a handful of voices. They tell us that a diverse media landscape is essential for democracy. But is it really diverse when Sinclair Broadcast Group owns hundreds of local news stations and can force them to read the exact same script verbatim across the country? When that happened, it was a momentary glimpse behind the curtain. Reminder that what we see as independent voices are really just puppets with the same script writers. And what about print media? Most top-tier newspapers are owned or heavily influenced by a few billionaire families and powerful investors. The New York Times, the Washington Post, and hundreds of regional newspapers each carrying the subtle weight of their owners' agendas. When one man's opinions can shape what millions of people read every day, is that really a free press? Think about it. When you switch from Fox to MSNBC, from CNN to the Washington Post, are you getting different viewpoints? Or are you just being offered different versions of the same narrative? Political puppetry, two sides of the same coin. Politics is supposed to be the last. We're told that democracy thrives on competition, on the power of the people to choose their leaders. But when was the last time you felt like your vote truly made a difference? Every election, it's the same story. Two parties, two choices. Red or blue. Conservative or liberal. But behind both parties are the same corporate donors, lobbyists, and special interest groups. The illusion of polar opposites, when in reality, both sides are funded by the same Wall Street donors, the same pharmaceutical lobbyists, and the same defense contractors. It's like watching a puppet show. One puppet wears a red suit, the other a blue. They argue, they fight, they pretend to oppose one another. But who's pulling the strings? The same people who own the stage. And then there's the Federal Reserve. This isn't a government institution. It's a private central bank. Every dollar printed is a Federal Reserve note, backed not by gold or silver, but by debt. The more money in circulation, the more debt is owed back to this private institution. Every dollar represents debt, and debt is control. The illusion of a stable currency, when in reality it's a system of perpetual debt that keeps us all bound. When your money is debt, what does that make you? Are we free citizens, or are we debt slaves? Paying interest to a system designed to never let us break even. The dollar dilemma. Money as a tool of control. The US dollar is the world's reserve currency, used in almost every international transaction. But did you know that it's not actually owned by the US government? The dollar is a Federal Reserve note, which means it's a debt instrument, not real money. Real money, according to the US Constitution, is gold and silver. But what we carry around, what we get paid in, is just paper, representing debt. The Federal Reserve isn't a government entity. It's a private central bank. This means that every dollar in circulation is debt owed back to a private institution. This isn't just a technicality. It's the very foundation of the global financial system. If the Federal Reserve controls the issuance of dollars and dollars control global trade, then who really holds the strings? When your money is debt, what does that make you? A global monopoly. It's a small world after all, because behind all these industries, all these labels are just a few interconnected hands. The same families, the same institutions, the same power structures operating in plain sight. The Rockefellers in oil, the Rothschilds in finance, and a few dozen powerful players who have shaped the world's history for centuries. From the IMF to the World Bank, these power brokers have guided global affairs for generations. Every war, every economic collapse, every political movement, they're all pieces in a larger game. And we're the pawns, convinced we have freedom because we can move left or right on the board, while the kings and queens play on, a world without real choices. If true freedom means the ability to make meaningful choices, what does it say about our world when all roads lead back to the same gatekeepers? Are we free, or are we just wandering through a maze of false doors, never realizing that every exit leads us back to the same room? This is Last Poet Left, signing off. If this message made you question the choices you thought you had, share your thoughts below. Because true freedom starts with understanding the system that traps us. Until next time, stay vigilant and always question the paths you think you're choosing.